In these meetings, we always start off with an image which sometimes you can't understand, and I wonder how many people in the room recognize what that is. I know Kristen Parent well, and a few people that work in the area. So this is actually the inside of the cryo-EM. And so we'll say a few more words about that in a second. Before doing that, this is the agenda for today's meeting. And so the first task is to approve the agenda. So take a second to look at it. And if anybody wants to move to approve the agenda, please say so move. So move. We got someone to move it. Seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. And the next step is to approve the minutes of last year's meeting, which look pretty familiar. I think you just approved that, kind of. Can I have someone approve or move to approve? Okay. All those in favor? Okay. We got through that part. So now I'll give you a state of the college kind of summary. And this is just, on the way there, I'll talk about some of the priorities and interesting things that are going on in the college, but also where we're headed. First, start with advancement. And there'll be 4 slides on this. So last year we raised just over $8 million, which was great. We had a target of 6.5. And amongst the endowments that were received, 6 that support student success. That's usually undergrad scholarships of one kind or another. And we have 1 new endowed faculty position. And of course, they're very high value endowments, and we want to keep on trying to find donors that are willing and interested in donating and endowing faculty positions. In order to endow a faculty position, we need to have $1 million. That's an endowed professor position. In order to endow a chair, it's $2 million. So if you have friends with that kind of resources available, take them for a beer. Our priorities for endowments are listed here, and this is across most units. Each unit will have their own separate priorities as well. But we're always looking at undergraduate scholarships, graduate fellowships, research, and Dean's Research Scholar Program for student success. For faculty support, we, as I just mentioned, would really like to get some more endowed professorships, endowed chairs. And we also want to fund specific research programs. One of the things that we're working on, and particularly the development and advancement team is working on, is trying to build a better stewardship plan. And that's making sure we stay in contact with our donors, particularly our large donors. One of the truths about development is the most probable method to get a next big grant is to engage with your current large donors. And so stewardship is really about staying engaged with them in a very positive manner. Item 4 there is something quite new. We haven't done too much of this in the college, and that's define and market thematic areas. And we have to define them carefully. We have to develop people that might be interested. They don't have to be alumni. This is happening more and more around the country where billionaires, and there are a lot of them in the States, as you've seen, a lot of wealth is concentrating at the upper level. So there's a lot of money in people's hands, and some of them are very philanthropic. So we've got to define cross-cutting themes that we're very good at, and then market them and try to attract funding from those large sources. So in terms of numbers, we have 63,000 alumni, and we're talking to them all every day, as you can imagine. It's actually really hard trying to filter them. So trying to figure out who we should talk to first is not easy. So we have a report from University Advancement that gives us some ideas of who we should talk to. But the best way to engage with our alumni is actually through the people in this room and the faculty and the students, and just try to stay in contact and see who's really interested in engaging with us again. You know, when I first started in this job, I was kind of worried about having to do alumni relations because I thought, I don't want to go ask people for money. I'm not a salesperson. But I actually don't do that. All I do is talk to them, and they love to talk about Michigan State and the lousy dorms they lived in and the horrible professors, the great professors they worked with. So they actually want to come back and engage with us, and so you should start doing it if you're interested in that kind of thing. So we have a couple of things that we do regularly as alumni engagement. One of them is we have a Dean's Board of Advisors now. We actually met yesterday. We have 12 people that are on that board, and they're just fantastic, and they give us lots of advice, and they're willing to help us in any way they can. And we have classes without quizzes, and that's in April 22. We're going to have our Dean's Board of Advisors meeting in conjunction with that. Here's student numbers. As you know, we had a big class this year. We're now over 50,000 students at Michigan State. The number of undergraduate majors in Nat Sci this fall is 5,737. That's about the same as last year. Incoming freshman class, 1,372. That's close to the maximum we've ever had. And we have about 1,000 grad students. We have the largest number of PhD students at the university are in our college. One thing we could look at, and there's entrepreneurial activities we could do about doing more master's programs. There's actually a lot of master's programs around the university that are making a lot of money for some other colleges, which we haven't engaged with yet, so we could think about that. So here's the numbers of kind of like the dollars in our college. So we have a general fund allocation from the university of $82 million. That's about 5.5% of the total academic budget of Michigan State, which is around $1.5 billion. Tenure stream faculty in Nat Sci has gone down a little over the COVID era. It's gone down maybe 15, 16 tenure stream faculty. We're now at 273. That's 14% or so of the university total. Tuition dollars generated, that's actually from last year because they haven't put the numbers up for the prior year. So they haven't put the numbers up for fiscal year 22 yet, so they're behind. But we bring in about $200 million a year in tuition dollars. And that's about 20% of the university total. And for that reason, Nat Sci is seen as a pretty good college for return on investment. We have strong grant income as well, so that's around $60 million a year and about 12.5% of the university total. And we have an endowment of $111.5 million. And I got some interesting statistics just a couple of days ago. My question to advancement was, if you look at all of the alumni of Nat Sci and ask, what is the total amount of dollars they've given to the whole university? The answer is $350 million. Of that, about $100 million has come to Nat Sci. So our alumni are donating a lot to athletics, music, other colleges. And, you know, I don't know what to do with that information, but it's just an interesting data point. So recurring budget is a little different than the total budget. There's recurring and non-recurring pieces. The non-recurring pieces actually fluctuate quite a bit from year to year. We got a little bit more recurring dollars last year. So we had $1.4 million extra from various sources from the provost's office. Some of it went to advising. Some of it was new faculty lines. We have a non-recurring budget which handles a lot of stuff like online instruction, but we also have enrollment pressure dollars that we get each year. So all of that together adds up to $11.1 million in fiscal year 23. F&A generated is another metric we would like to see go up a lot more. As you know, some of that funnels back to units. It's been going up pretty steadily over the last 5 years, and we want to keep moving in positive directions there. So now we're going to move on to leadership changes in the college. And so we have quite a few changes in chairs and directors. And the first one I want to mention is Tim Zacharewski, who I am very grateful stepped in as interim chair of biochemistry and molecular biology. And we're in the final stages of trying to find the next permanent chair of biochemistry and molecular biology. Jeff Freymuller has been around for a while. He was interim chair, and now he's permanent chair. Jeff Schenker has taken over from Keith Promislow, and Keith did a great job for many years. So now Jeff's got a high bar to try to achieve. And Carl Olson has stepped in as Lee Cox moved upstairs into the VPRI's office as a compliance person. And so thanks to all of those chairs for stepping up, and to the people that they've replaced for the hard work that they did. Now moving on to new directors. Frédéric Viens, who was the director of the Actuarial Sciences program, took a job at Rice University, and so he has been replaced by Albert Cohn. Albert's been working in that role, kind of doing a lot of the work related to actuarial sciences for some time, and so he really knows the program. We have a new director of crime, Beth Herbel-Eisenman. She's actually an education professor, but she has been in crime for a long time and is a great choice to take over as that director. A molecular plant sciences graduate program has been taken over by Jianping Hu, and she is doing a great job. Really appreciate her leadership there. A.J. Robeson has taken over the neuroscience program, and he is very energetic, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what A.J. is able to achieve as leader of that program. Claire Vieira is the new director of genetics and genome sciences, taking over from Kathy Ernst, who's taken over the position of chair of animal science, and Claire is also often to a fast start in that role. So we have a great set of new directors there. There's been changes in the leadership at the dean's office, and the two associate deans that have stepped up recently are here. Gemma Reguera, who's taken over from Cheryl Sisk, and Cheryl Sisk did a fantastic job. It was great to have her in that role, and Gemma's off to a flying start. So I think Cheryl's passing on some of her skills and knowledge to Gemma, and she's really flying. Amy Ralston has taken over from Rich Schwartz, and Rich also was in NatSci for a long time, was very influential across campus, and that was a high bar to achieve as well. And Amy has stepped into that role with a great deal of energy and a lot of new ideas, and so I'm very enthusiastic about what they can achieve in these roles. We also have Danielle Flores Lopez, who stepped in as interim DEI assistant dean after Amber Benton left to go to the place down the road. And she flipped from STEM, which I thought she loved, into music and art and stuff like that. In any case, we're going to run a search for the next leader of DEI in the college, and that'll start pretty soon. We just had a meeting with Jabbar Bennett to talk about the relationship between what we're doing and what a new person might do in this role. And Heather Easton has stepped up as the faculty excellence advocate for the college. And she's doing a great job. She's really data-oriented and giving me data about various inequities that I hadn't thought of looking at before. So really appreciate her work. And if you don't know what a faculty excellence advocate is, send Heather a message and she'll let you know. But briefly, my image of it is that it's kind of like an ombuds person. So if you don't want to talk to me or your chair or people that your direct line of hierarchy, you can talk to Heather and get a kind of like an ombudsman view of how you can process the things that you would like changed. And we've had some promotions in the dean's office. Val has been promoted to senior communications and marketing director. Kanchan Pavankadar has been promoted to assistant director of student success, and Caitlin Peterson, assistant director of pre-health and human biology. We have some new staff. We have Lisa Backus, who's in the pre-award office, and boy, do we need help in the pre-award office. We're trying to get everybody to submit more grants, and in particular more complicated ones like training grants and center-level grants and fellowship awards. They're all really important, but they're different and they're more complicated in many ways. So we have Lisa Backus as another pre-award person to see if they can keep up with the demand, and they do a fantastic job. I just can't believe how good they are at what they do. I haven't heard a complaint in a long time about their office. We also have two new human biology advisors, Rachel Meyer-Payne and Holly Wright, and they started recently. So now I'm going to go through all of the new faculty and academic staff that have been added to the college over the past year, and there are 31 of them. And so we'll go by unit. Biological science program, as you know, is an undergraduate program. And so we have 3 new instructors there, Sarah Garnett, Jen Kirk and Kevin McCormick. In chemistry, we have 5 new hires: Stephen Herney, Elizabeth McGaw, and Tian Chu, Autumn Chu, actually. So Autumn Chu, Tuo Wang, and Weiwei Ji are setting up their research programs in the chemistry building, and there's a lot of construction going on. We're planning for 8 hires in chemistry that all need renovated space, and so we're trying to get a cheap loan to pay for that over the next couple of years. We have 2 new hires into CMSE, Longshu Huang and Kevin Milashov. And we have 1 new hire in Earth and Environmental Sciences, Anthony Kendall. And Anthony actually has been here for quite a few years and has now transitioned to the tenure stream. We have a new hire, James Moran, in integrated biology, and he's going to run the mass spec facility that used to be run by Nathaniel Ostrom. And so he's the new mass spec in soils kind of guy who's going to be actually housed in PSMS rather than in the NatSci building. At Kellogg Biological Station, we have a new assistant professor, Elisa Shah. And in mathematics, we have 3 new faculty and academic staff: Kevin Lawrence, Konstantin Matetsky, and Mikhail Paparizos. Then in microbiology and molecular genetics, we have Andrew Crawford as a specialist research and Yu Zhang as an assistant professor. And in physics astronomy, we have Kerem Gulyuz and Kirdaman Mohan, who's actually a tenure stream faculty member in Lyman Briggs. In physiology, we have 5 people who arrived this year. Byron Gibson, Cameron Prigge, Theodore Taus, Charlotte Vanica, Jennifer Doherty, and Shahnaz Masani. And you'll see that 2 of them, the last 2, are in Lyman Briggs, as the last one in mathematics was. And there's been a program out of, in physics, I'm sorry. So you see this last one here is also out of, somewhere here there's a pointer. So you see there's a Lyman Briggs person here. So Lyman Briggs is trying to increase the number of education research people on their faculty, and they're having joint hires with quite a few units in NatSci. So physics, astronomy, 2 in physiology, and actually 1 in prime as well. Then plant biology, we have Lauren Sullivan, who's an assistant professor, arrived this year. Plant Research Laboratory, Stefan Smollinger and Daniela Strenkert. And another, as I just mentioned, person out of Lyman Briggs, Kristen Vroom, who's in the program in math education. And finally, but certainly not least, in statistics and probability, we have an assistant professor fixed term, Yuk Young Hong. So there are 31 new faculty and academic staff in NatSci, and boy, we needed them. We had a lot of people retire, move over the past couple of years during COVID, and so a lot of our staffing went down. So now I want to mention a few of the major awards that our faculty have won over the past year. And the first one I want to mention is Christoph Benning, who won the National Academy of Inventors, became a senior member of that. And his work is on plant lipid metabolism. We also have Greg Howe, who is a U.S. Fulbright Scholar for 22-23. And then we have 2 lifelong award achievement awards. First, to Cheryl Sisk for the Daniel S. Lehrman Lifetime Achievement Award for the Society of Behavioral Neuroendocrinology. And Jim Teege, who won the Lifetime Achievement Award for the American Society of Microbiology. The next one is an award that we love to see our young faculty get. These are these NSF Early Career Awards, and we've been doing very well at these for the past 6 or 7 years. And this year is no exception. We have 5 of our young faculty that won these awards this year, and they're Huan Lei, Elizabeth Munch, both in CMSE and Statistics and Probability, Mohammed Maghrebi in Physics Astronomy, Julia Gantz in Integrated Biology, and Johannes Polanen in Physics Astronomy. We have some foundation, agency, organization awards. Sarah Evans won the Earth Leadership Program. Sounds really good. We won 2 Alfred P. Sloan Fellowships, Dalton Hardesty in Earth and Environmental Sciences, and Ilya Kachkovsky in Mathematics. And our own Angela Wilson won the Iota Sigma Pi National Honorary Member. I don't think, I've not heard of anybody else at NatSci winning that award. That might be one we should look at more often. And Kellogg Biological Station won another one that I hadn't seen before, which is the Organization of Biological Field Stations Advancing Equity Award. We have a set of professional society awards. American Chemical Society. Marcus Dantas won the Ahmed Zewail Award, as did Nathan Whitehorn in Physics Astronomy. Marcus Dantas in Chemistry and Physics Astronomy. We have 2 people who've joined the ranks of the American Physical Society Fellows, Danny Caballero and Hui-Wen Lin. And Danny Caballero also won the Excellence in Education Award. The Department of Physics and Astronomy won the American Physical Society Award for improving undergraduate physics education, mainly due to their gateway courses that are being transformed to evidence-based formats, taking advantage of this great building, which enables to do that in a very positive manner. Professional Society Awards, we have the American Society for Plant Biologists Award, Eric Grodewald, Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, and Jiming Jiang in Plant Biology won those. We have an Early Career Award for Emily Josephs and the Robert Rabson Award for Berkeley Walker. Yu Hua Cui was elected to the American Statistical Association, which is a very prestigious association membership, and Keith Promislow to the Society for Industrial and Applied Math. So now I'm going to go through endowed positions, and as I mentioned before, we really want to get a lot more endowed positions. This year we appointed 2 people to donor endowed positions. There's a new endowed position, the Carl H. Brubaker Junior Professorship, and Tuo Wang, who's a new arrival in chemistry, won that one. And we helped retain Aman Yadav, who's actually a Department of Education, a College of Education faculty member, but he works in STEM education, particularly related to computational science, and he's now partially appointed in CMSE and working with CMSE people to try to look at the way that education research is done in computational thinking at K through 12. Now we have the university awards, and there's a lot of awards here that people put a lot of effort into to submit each year. And so these are the W.J. Beale Outstanding Faculty Awards, and this year 4 people won those awards. Jeff Connor, Hema Reguera, Yetsa Tepe, and Chris Waters, all very deserving recipients of that prestigious award. We have a couple of other university-wide honors, and there are other awards we didn't put in here because this group of people, our faculty, win a lot of awards, but we thought we'd mention these 2. Victor Rita won the Simons Shavukla Award for Academic Leadership, and Yetsa Tepe won the Innovator of the Year from the MSU Innovation Center. So, as you know, we want to get a lot more awards, and a strategy that Angela's been working on is to increase the number of awards for research in the college that can act as feeder for national awards. And we're doing a pretty good job of increasing the number of national awards that are being received by our faculty. And that relies on everybody to submit their colleagues for these awards. So if we can help with that, let us know, but in the end, a lot of that effort has to come from nominations from faculty. And so a lot of people are working hard on that, and we really appreciate that. The other thing we're working hard on, and you are working hard on, as it's vital to success, is grants. And so here are a few of the grants that have landed recently. So we have some pretty significant centers that have landed. One is something called CharmNet that Andrew Chrisley put in, and it's really a plasma physics computational project, joint between CMSE and math, and with a lot of people outside MSU involved. About half of this comes to MSU. There is also an Energy Frontier Research Center that just got awarded to Cheryl Kerfeld as the PI, and that is also a big project and a great credit to her. And then there's a DOE project that Eric Grotewald got funded this year. We're doing pretty well at NIH funding, and the NIH funding listed here, the grants that have already been awarded. There's been a lot more coming in over the past 6 months as well that aren't official yet. But here are some of the ones that are. So Alex Dixon received a NIH $1.32 million award. We have Hee-Duk Hong, who won a $1.54 million award. And then we have Sophia Lunt, who won a $2 million award. And then Ben Orlando and A.J. Robeson and Guo Wei, all winning awards that are multi-million-dollar NIH awards. We're not listing here any award that's under $1 million, so these are the big awards, and we're getting a lot of them, which is great to see. We're also winning quite a few graduate training program awards, which is another priority for us in the university, and here's one. It's one that Daniel Appello won a couple of years ago. Actually, that was last year. Yeah, that's a NRT, NSF NRT graduate training program that's joint between CMSE and math. And then we have Christoph Benning won a large award. Wade Fisher won a large award for work at the LHC detector atlas. And Kevin Howdeck won a large award. That's a great award for education research. And then Dan Hayden, who's a new hire in physics and astronomy, also won a large award for construction for detectors at the Large Hadron Collider. The last one there is another training program grant that Matt Hedden has led and has been awarded to the mathematics department. Kenny Mers won a large award from the NSF, and Betty Phillips also, her work again is on her math textbook CMP, and she's been winning large awards from the NSF for that development for 20 years. Finally, there's one award here, the Keck Foundation Science and Engineering Award, and we haven't won a large award from the Keck Foundation in living memory, really. So this is the first one that's been achieved for a long, long time, and congratulations to Marcus Dantas and Gilad Harel for that award. So that's the award part. Now let me talk a little bit about priorities that are coming out of our strategic plan. This is just a summary. Yesterday we gave a more updated and thorough presentation of where we are with implementing our strategic plan. But here's a snapshot. So one of our objectives, as I've already mentioned, is we want to increase the number of training program grants, and we want to have metrics for each of these things that we're aiming for. So we're taking as a baseline how many of these training grants we had at the beginning of at the end of academic year 22, and the answer is at that time we had 7. There's been 2 more awarded, and our academic year 27 metric is 14. So we've got a long way to go, but we're off to a good start, and there's a lot of people getting engaged and putting together training grant proposals. Amy Rolston is planning to have a workshop to help people understand what it takes to get one of these grants, and one of the big problems with them is all of the data you have to get together in order to put one in. And so we're working on ways that we can facilitate that. Diversity hiring is something we have to worry about a lot, and one of the things that's happened recently is the university has hired an affirmative action expert, and that person has been looking at our diversity numbers and looking at the pools that are available for us to hire from. And the conclusion is that we're not satisfying our affirmative action requirements. And we knew we had a problem, but now it's become more urgent. And so you'll see us trying to do everything we can to stop the Department of Education doing an audit of Michigan State compliance with affirmative action. And if there is such an audit, NatSci might be put under some program to require that we come more into compliance. And so that adds urgency to what we already knew we had to do. So we want to diversify all aspects of our community, but two areas where we really want to concentrate is leadership and tenure stream faculty. And we're doing okay on gender diversity. We're having a lot of trouble with, as everybody is having, with tenure stream faculty with full racial diversity. And so that's an area where we want to concentrate. Student success is another big initiative across the university and very ambitious goals. We currently are at about 81, 82% retention. So when a student comes into Michigan State University, 82% of them get a degree after 6 years. However, the university wants to bring that up to 86%. We're 82%, we're already pretty good compared to our peers. In fact, toward the top of our peer group. To get 86%, we have to do a lot better. We kind of know what we have to do. A lot of those students that leave early on in their careers, first year, even first semester. And to be honest, a lot of STEM courses didn't really work that hard to retain students. That's changed with the evidence-based practices, but we can still do more. And so that's this statement about reducing DFW rates. We want to make sure we understand which students are getting close to dropping out of courses and see if we can intervene. One of the things that's not talked about much is making sure we increase learning at the same time. We don't want to have people not fail just because we give them an easy grade. We really got to educate our students. And that sounds impossible, but actually it is possible. And there's a lot of evidence out there that this can be successful. We can move learning forward while reducing DFW rates. The other thing that we hear about a lot now, and in fact we suffer a bit from, so if you look at the average salary of our students when they graduate, if they decide to go into private sector, their salaries aren't that high. And part of that reason is that they don't have skills that make them marketable, but even more importantly, they don't know what skills they have that fit the market. So we have those two jobs we have to help them understand better. So we want to expand the career options for students by both educating them on what they should tell their potential employers and by learning new skills, maybe relatively easy skills that will make them more employable. And another thing I mentioned earlier in the advancement discussion was talking about cross-college themes. And there's a lot of collaboration amongst the deans and thinking about the next campaign and how we can put together a marketing and communication strategy that will be cross-college. So 5 that our college is very good at and very engaged in are listed here. And we're talking about ways we can develop a marketing and communication strategy around these 5 things. So you'll recognize them all, and I hope that almost everybody in this room would say, hey, yeah, I could probably engage in that. So there are climate, environmental sciences, and plant sciences. We've already got traction in all 3 of those areas, and we're hoping to get a new plant and environmental sciences building built. We already have approval to plan. So over the next year, during calendar year 23, we'll be getting the details of a building which is about between $130 and $150 million building that will house the next generation of laboratories in these areas. We're also starting on a climate consortium with several other colleges and trying to think about what focus areas we can claim that Michigan State can really take leadership in. Then we can market those to big donors as well as federal agencies, state agencies, federal agencies. So the second one I wanted to mention is data science, AI, quantum computing, cybersecurity, and gaming. Some of those things don't really fit in NatSci. The part that does fit in NatSci is data science, AI, and quantum computing. They're really mainstream NatSci initiatives, but they're also in other units. Quantum computing's in engineering as well. Good collaboration. And of course, we have a center that Angela Wilson leads in quantum computing. There are 6 deans working together on this set of 5 words, and is driven by the fact that the US is falling behind in educating people in these areas. And the marketplace is enormous. Looking at different numbers, but there's about 2 million jobs that are open right now across the country in these areas, which means our economy is not moving at the pace it could if it had a supply of people that really could do these jobs effectively. Now, a lot of it is not really hardcore data science. It's more like data analytics. So we have to figure out what kind of courses to develop. The university is committed to developing these courses and talking with industry, talking with the state about what would best serve the state of Michigan and the broader US economy. And we're talking about a new building in which to house courses that achieve this. That new building would also include an expanded version of CMSE and an expanded version of Computer Science and Engineering, which is a department in the College of Engineering. It would also include a laboratory sciences part that would do things related to semiconductors, where the US has fallen behind and is costing us a lot of problems in the economy, and which might also include quantum computing initiatives. That building has also been approved for planning, and during calendar year 23, we'll also be working on the design of that building. We're also working on trying to get the infrastructure in plant and environmental sciences up, and one area where we've been behind for quite a while is the greenhouses. So we have an allocation from the state of Michigan for $23 million to help upgrade the greenhouses. So they're all projects that we're working on in those first 2 items. The third one has been a topic that everybody has realized Michigan State should engage in very strongly in order to stay in the AAU. If we do not do that over time, we will not be in the AAU. That's the perception of many people in the community. And the reason for that is a large fraction of the research dollars that come out of Washington are through the NIH. And we need enough effort on the Michigan State campus to be more engaged in NIH funding and make an impact. So we're trying to find areas where we can lead in biomedical research. We already have really great people. I don't want to diminish that, but we want to build on that. At the same time, we have the Henry Ford Initiative, which is a very exciting initiative. We've got to figure out how we engage with that. There's talk of building a new building in Detroit. There's a talk of 5 or 6 new departments in that building that will be departments that will engage very closely with Henry Ford Hospital, which is a $6 billion a year enterprise. It's a massive enterprise. It has about 100 researchers in their research program. Those 100 researchers are going to become affiliated with Michigan State, which will increase the number of biomedical researchers that we are connected with. And at the same time, we want to expand the number of biomedical researchers on the MSU campus. Then the other two areas there, the fundamental areas where Michigan State has been very strong for many years are chemical, mathematical, and physical sciences, and we'll continue to invest there. As I mentioned before, we're investing in chemistry. Those 3 areas also connect to many of these other initiatives. And an area we don't talk about too much, but I think everybody realizes is very strong here, that's STEM education research. And we have a lot of connections to the College of Education here. We have the potential to make a major impact on the shortage of teachers in the state of Michigan and nationwide. That's an area we really want to figure out how to make a contribution. So we'll be working on all of these 5 areas and trying to design ways in which to bring in funding, really key initiatives in each of them. Thank you. That's all I'll say on that.